Welcome to the Cara Michelle Show, where we break out of the matrix together and return heaven to earth. This is a place for the spiritual seekers and leaders, the dreamers and doers, the conscious creators and world changers. You can expect a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but mostly a whole lot of purpose, freedom, and sovereignty. And of course, all things quantum. May this podcast serve you in remembering the truth of who you are, all that you came here to do, and how deeply supported you are in doing it. You are incredibly powerful and your mission is protected. So it's time to dial up your frequency and recalibrate to your higher self and limitless potential. Get ready, because we're about to blast off. A new reality awaits you on the other side. I'll see you there. Hello, my beautiful soul, and welcome back. Today we are talking about emotions, specifically the negative emotions, although, I try to see everything as neutral. There is no such thing as good or bad. It's all about the perspective we take around it. But let's discuss how negative emotions, things like anger, frustration, bitterness, shame, guilt, whatever else you can fill in the blank here, because my mind is blanking. But how you can see these as your guides, how these are actually giving you an opportunity for immense change, immense healing, immense redirection, and realignment. So this morning I was reflecting on my own experience actually, and I'm going to tie in human design here because that has been such a really profound and big part of not only like understanding myself, but finding empowerment. If you haven't learned about your human design, I highly recommend it. It's just such an amazing resource to gain extra understanding. And for me, I'm a projector. And when I'm out of alignment, when I'm not in my highest self, the emotion that is my default is bitterness. So depending on your design, I don't know all the other ones off the top of my mind. I think it's like frustration, anger, and I forget what it is for reflector. But for me, when things are misaligned, my default state is to become really bitter. And I've worked with a lot of projector business coaches, #grateful, because they understand and see me on such a deep level. And one of my coaches talked about how bitterness is like that smoldering hate. It's like that low grade. I just see and feel it as this like fire within me, and it's like burning beneath the surface until it's dealt with. So this morning I was reflecting on a certain area of my life that had led to a lot of bitterness over the last few months, potentially the last year. It's been hanging around for a while. And it was this anger, this hate, this resentment, this deep frustration towards myself, towards another person, towards the situation in general. And this bitterness actually is such an incredible guiding light around what is aligned for me and what isn't. So as always, I'm going to try to apply this to your own experience right now as you're listening. So I invite you to reflect on like what is maybe the negative or lower emotion that you're feeling, whether that is anger, hate, bitterness as well, whether it's like shame or guilt or frustration, whatever that might be showing up for you as. And like take a moment to just notice what you're currently feeling or what's been playing out for you lately. And then I want to take in the perspective of like, how is that emotion actually guiding you? And it's truly shining a light on something that isn't meant for you. It's either shining a light on something that needs to be healed, needs to be worked through, or it's shining a light on something that is not meant to be in your life. So for my example, it was doing both of those things. the bitterness, the low grade hate that was like burning in my body every day was shining a light on some areas where I was playing small and I was settling for less than what I wanted. So I was feeling this bitterness towards myself because reality wasn't the way that I wanted it to be, and yet I wasn't taking the actions I knew I needed to. So it was definitely a mirror reflection towards myself. It was also shining a light on patterns that have played out since childhood, patterns that actually were passed down from my parents, ways that I was acting and reacting that weren't actually of the highest good. You know, they kept me looping through some trauma, some pain, some people pleasing, and dishonoring myself. And what you notice, whether you're looking at human design or just in general, looking at these heavier emotions, it is reflecting when something is not of your highest alignment. So the bitterness isn't something for me to be more angry at or become more bitter about. It's actually showing me like this doesn't feel good because you've leveled up past it, or because you can do better, or because this pattern and trauma doesn't serve you. This behavior that has been normalized since childhood or is still normalized in your parents or in society is not actually of the highest good for you. So you're being shown through this heavy emotion that this is an area to take action on and make a change in. And so I'll tell you from my own experience, because I kept ignoring the bitterness, I kept staying there, I kept people pleasing and dishonoring what my heart and soul knew it wanted. Like I was so clear of like, this is my dream, this is what I'm here to do, this is what I want to create, this is how I want to show up in the world, how I want to be seen and heard, and this is the business I want to build. But I wasn't fully honoring it, and I was allowing distractions to come in and kind of pull me off course. I have been in shiny object syndrome for like 4 years. Just this past year of my business, I finally like slowly honed that back in to come back to the truth that was always there, but I clearly wasn't ready to acknowledge or step into. I had to learn some things first, I guess, and become a better guide. But I was like clearing out these shiny objects, coming back into alignment of, okay, if there's bitterness, if there's anger, why am I feeling bitter? Why am I feeling angry? It's a lesson. It's showing me that this path actually wasn't meant for me. You feel bitter, or you feel drained, or you feel angry around this person or people or career path, whatever it might be. This environment is causing you to feel that way because it's your body telling you you're not meant to be there. It's your body telling you that there's misalignment. It's your emotions shouting at you, quite literally, if it's like anger or whatever. It's like shouting at you saying, why are you still here? Why aren't you honoring yourself and going to what feels good and what feels exciting and expansive and flowy and fun and pleasurable? What is the pattern, or what is the thing that needs to be healed to allow you to let it be more easy? So as I sat with that this morning, I have definitely in the past allowed the negative emotions to bring me down or create more negative emotions. I have in the past allowed my mistakes or past choices to make me feel more shame or guilt, or to be bitter towards myself for like, why did I allow this? Why did I stay here? Why did I keep doing that thing? Why did I keep hitting my head against the wall when it clearly wasn't working? All these things. But today I was like, there's no need to be bitter about it. It's truly just a guiding force. It's truly just seeing, Kara, your emotions were speaking to you and were showing you that this wasn't your highest excitement. This wasn't your highest alignment. This was keeping you in a lower self, or potentially even a timeline that wasn't actually meant for you. And now that you're listening to the feelings and letting these negative emotions guide you, you can realign and redirect to what does feel good. So as I reflected on it, I felt such an overwhelming burst of gratitude, because over the last however many months, I really have redesigned all areas of my life to feel really freaking good. And I have my dream team working with me, supporting me in my business, supporting me in getting my message and content out into the world. I've simplified my offerings to a way that feels the best for me and can help more people and be more scalable. I have really, really fine-tuned the social circle or network that I have, and the ways that I give my energy, where I share myself, where I once spread myself too thin. I have taken back that power and realigned so that I can share myself from a full cup, and from a place of like excitement and joy to give, and not from feeling obligated, not from the shadow of the people pleaser who's like, I have to do this even though I don't want to. So I've been fine tuning and letting these emotions guide me. And there was like one area that I still hadn't done that in until the last couple weeks, where shit hit the fan and I had to. It's like, oh, what a giggle. It's like God was just saying, Kara, you've got to let go of this, because it's not what you're meant for. It's not aligned. And the emotions were telling me, but I wasn't listening to them. I wasn't trusting them. And I was finally forced to. And after getting through and navigating like a really difficult situation, this morning I felt the most immense peace, because I was like, wow, now it's all here. It's literally all what I always wanted to design. But if I had not been willing to face these emotions as they came up, or if I had not been willing to find the lesson in them or see them as teachers, I don't think I would have gotten to this point. I think I would have continued to loop through the pattern. And that's why this message today is so much about, what are your negative emotions teaching you? What are they trying to shine a light on? If you feel drained or frustrated or small every time you're around a specific person or a group of people, if you feel like you have to dim your light or be someone you're not to fit in, and that causes you to feel any kind of heavy emotion, listen to those emotions. For fuck's sake, like, they're there for a reason. They're trying to guide you and say, these are not your people. You weren't meant to be stuck in that environment. You're meant to be shining bright, playing big, like overflowing from your fullest. So if those emotions are there, examine them. Another example, if your career is making you feel exhausted, drained, bitter, angry, small, unsupported, insecure, unworthy, maybe there is guilt or shame in some kind of way. I'm just listing out emotions now. But if your work environment or your career is causing you to feel any of those, reflect on that. What is that mirroring back to you? And is that actually aligned then? Or is it trying to tell you, honey, get out of there. There's something better for you. Or is it trying to say, hey, this is a pattern that you've brought with you everywhere, and you can't keep running. You can't keep avoiding it. You can't keep pushing it down beneath the surface. It's gonna bubble up and it's gonna explode like a volcano at some point. And now's a beautiful time to face that and work through it. I had so many patterns in relationships and so many patterns of attracting men who didn't value me and didn't respect me. And I'll tell you, it didn't matter where I traveled in the world, that pattern followed me. And it wasn't until I like sat with it and I had to go, what is this showing me? That then I could heal it and then I could work through it. And that shift did change everything for me. It took a breaking point. It took multiple extremely traumatic experiences, and I don't want that for you. So I hope this message can really land on the ears that need to hear it before the patterns get worse, or before, the experience gets to that multiple breaking point or that extremely traumatic experience. But it was like the pattern was there always for me. It came from the unworthiness. It came from the different guilt or shame or insecurities. And I wasn't facing those emotions. I wasn't letting them teach me and support me in healing or feeling more empowered or changing my narrative. I was just continuing to believe it and stay there. So I had all these sexual assaults and harassment at every job I worked at. I then was raped. And then I thought, I'm going to break this pattern. And then I went to India and was assaulted by my yoga teacher. And then I thought, I'm going to break this pattern for real because I'm so done with it. And then I got a job in Sri Lanka and my boss was extremely possessive. And that was the final breaking point. I literally had been traveling the world and attracting and having these mirroring experiences everywhere, and the emotions were telling me like, this isn't right, or you deserve better, or now I'm getting bitter and like disappointed or feeling more worthless. Like those emotions were constantly trying to guide and teach me and show me that I deserved more. But until I was willing to listen and honor my highest self and see those emotions as the guides that they were, I was continuing to stay trapped. And finally, it took this boss being, it was like so possessive. He was coked out of his mind and just wanted me at his birthday party to show me off as like arm candy. And I was like, what is going on? I'm literally thinking I'm here to like run a hostel and teach yoga, and all of a sudden it's turned into something insane and I feel so unsafe. Thank God I had a group of friends there with me, staying with me that night too, because it just, everything at the birthday party got so out of hand. And I remember calling both my parents from the beach, just crying and being like, I can't stay here. I can't be at this job, even though I have no money in the bank. And I was, relying on this to be my dream job, teaching yoga on the beach in a country that I love. And wow, like how amazing. And all of a sudden it all escalated. But every single negative emotion, even the tears and all of that, were like showing me, this is not aligned for you. You're not meant to feel this way. Past Kara would have stayed in that environment for far too long because she would have believed she deserved it, and she wouldn't have listened or looked for the message in the emotions, in the negative feelings that were coming up to the surface to be witnessed. But thankfully, at that point, I had done a fair amount of inner work and I was a lot more receptive. And even though there were comments from people close to me saying, well, maybe you should just stick it out a little bit longer, maybe it's not that bad, or money fears, or Kara's just jumping off and not staying committed. Like there were so many negative stories being projected on me. But I honored my emotions at that moment, and I honored my highest self, which was like, you don't deserve this, and you cannot tolerate it if you want this pattern to break. And I went home that night, left the party, my friends came with me, we packed up all my stuff. I had like 2 Tupperwares, a travel backpack, all this stuff. And the next morning, first thing, we moved everything out. to a place down the road. They stayed with me until the boss arrived, and then I was like, I'm not staying here, I'm not working here, and I said my goodbye, I left, and I had no clue how I was gonna pay for anything or get through the next little while. I didn't know what I was gonna do next, but I can tell you the feeling I had that day after getting out of that environment, and it felt like I could feel the shift of like you broke the pattern because you didn't ignore your feelings and you didn't continue to tolerate something that isn't good for you, that isn't aligned. I went to the beach later and I was just crying such big tears of gratitude. And I remember thinking, this is it. You will never tolerate something like this again. So the heaviness that can be felt at times, it's teaching you, it's trying to guide you, it's trying to show you something's not right here. Whether it's environment, like I said, career, like I said, purpose, whatever, money, doesn't matter. But if there are heavy emotions, they are here to guide you. They're trying to shine a light on something that either isn't meant for you, it's outdated, you have elevated past it, or you're capable of elevating past it. And they're trying to say, like, stop fucking settling here. Let's go. Let's go, queen. Let's go, king. I see you. I see your power. I see you're meant for so much more. Why aren't you going for it? Why are you staying down here? Why aren't you listening to me? This is why I said in yesterday's episode about just relaxing your nervous system and, letting these things come up. Like, these emotions want to be witnessed because they're trying to teach you something. So my bitterness for the last year in this environment, my bitterness for a few years in my business, that bitterness was there because I was taking a path that wasn't meant for me. I was making things harder than they needed to be. I wasn't honoring the style, the way that I wanted to show up, the way that I wanted to have my offerings, the way I wanted to receive money in exchange for helping people. I was doing everything misaligned from my true self. And that's why I was fucking bitter. That's why I was angry. That's why it felt so exhausting and draining and heavy. And like work instead of joy and play and service and alignment. And relationships are no different. As I said, if there's someone around you, if there's people around you, if there's something that's making you feel lower or heavy, let that be your guide. Sit with that emotion. Ask yourself, what is it trying to show me? Why am I feeling so frustrated in this environment? Well, that emotion is going to tell you you're probably feeling frustrated because you're being caged in, or you're feeling limited, or they're not seeing your true self, so you feel like you have to adapt to be what they want you to be instead of being who you want to be and who you know you're meant to be. Sit with that frustration and it'll teach you everything you need to know. As I sat with my bitterness, and it taught me everything I needed to know. And it showed quite clearly what needed to be released. And then as a sovereign being, it was my responsibility to face that, to then have some conversations, to get out of my comfort zone, clear the air with people, to set new boundaries, to make total changes and adjustments in my business, to realign everything to what actually felt good. And as I said, the level of peace and gratitude I felt waking up to that this morning and having that realization of like, ooh, wow, it's here now. It's like the light shone down and the angels were singing. Oh, it's just so beautiful. And that's how we let these shadows, that's how we let these, so-called shadows, so-called heavy emotions guide and shine the light on what we need. So I'm going to leave that there for today. But I just really, really hope it encourages you to realize like there is no such thing as a bad emotion. It's just a teacher. It's just showing you something. So we can be mad or angry or annoyed that like we're feeling this way. We can, project on the emotions. Or we can be like, hey, let me just sit here and listen to you for a second. You're probably actually wiser than I give you credit for. What is the wisdom that you're trying to show me? What is the alignment you're trying to shine a light on? And then how can I redirect and recreate as a conscious creator of my own life, as a sovereign being? What do I need to do today to have less of this density, less of this heaviness and misalignment, so that I can feel good? How can this continue to guide and teach and lead the way and light the path for me moving forward? There's so much wisdom in there, so I hope you take the time to find it and do anything you need, whether it's clearing your mind. For me, it is the meditation or the breath work or any of my tools in my toolbox that really help with this. But ultimately, it's just about creating a space to allow yourself to sit there with it for a moment and listen. Sit there and ask. Instead of bypassing it, pushing it aside, blaming it, ignoring it, numbing it, all of the above. So give that a go. I hope that helps you. I hope it supports you. And I'm sending so much love